yesterday may have been, and listen, I've sat through some clunkers in my life, okay? That may have been the most boring football game I have ever watched. I mean, there's nothing on the line. The quarterback, well, one of the quarterbacks is just absolutely playing terribly. How you throw for 43 yards, throw 2 interceptions, and win the game? Please tell me. I mean, it's like one of those games where, hey, you turn the ball over 6 times, but you won anyway. No, it doesn't. It's like the stat sheet doesn't balance, okay? So if you watch the rest of and I did, I mean, I'm diligent about this stuff. Watch the rest of the game. I watched the interceptions. I that the Saints got to put them in position. I watched the 4th down miss. I watched Olave make a couple of mistakes. I watched the Carolina. You know what it felt like? It felt like the Saints lost to Navy yesterday. I mean, it felt like Carolina, they were Navy. They ran the ball 41 times. They threw it 15. They completed 5 passes. They won the game. I told you I didn't want to talk about the game. I want to talk about the other stuff. The other stuff is infinitely more interesting to me. The Cardinals have just fired Cliff Kingsbury, by the way, and Steve Keim, who is the general manager, who had stepped aside earlier in the season because it was health reasons, is also stepping aside permanently now. So Cardinals wide open. This is we're watching Sean Payton, right? Payton had what amounted to an open house yesterday on Fox's NFL show. There lots of developments where the Saints are concerned that had nothing to do with that terrible game yesterday. Payton comes out and he says, yes, I met with the Broncos. And further, it was reported in more than one spot that the Saints and the Broncos had agreed to compensation. That was really interesting to me because the prime compensation for or the prime draft capital that the Broncos had is now in Seattle. But it's not all of their draft capital. They own the 49ers first-round pick, which is going to be near or at the end of the first round. But it is still a first-round pick. They have a high third-round pick that they can move. And the possibility of a player being put into, or maybe even more than one, being put into the compensation package was also floated by Denver. That's not a terrible roster, okay? It looks it because of what happened over the course of the season. I told you how many times did I say the Broncos hired the worst coach in NFL history. Nathaniel Hackett will go down. I mean, unless I see something considerably worse, that guy was terrible. But look at what they've done, since then. Okay, since the since the Hackett dismissal, they were very competitive in the game with the Chiefs. They beat the Chargers yesterday, or 3/4 of the Chargers. I don't know what. If you want to play your guys, play your guys. If you don't want to play your guys, don't play your guys. But don't play your guys for 2.5 to 3/4. That doesn't make any sense. But, I suppose that the Chargers just do things. Anyway, you watch the Broncos the last couple of weeks. It's like, okay, they can be competent. And Russell Wilson actually had moments in the last couple of weeks where he looked like Russell Wilson again. I'm telling you, this was one of the worst coaching jobs that has ever happened. Now, was he great? Was he the Seattle Russell Wilson? No, but he threw 4 touchdown passes. He threw 2 interceptions. He threw for roughly 500 yards in the last 2 weeks. He even improvised one yesterday and threw about a 50-yard dime, and it's like, oh, yeah, that guy. I remember him. Now, so I'm saying all of this to say, does Sean Payton find this job attractive enough to keep? We talked about this on the podcast about a week and a half ago about, what he's looking for, and he said it again. Ownership is first. It's even ahead of quarterback. Well, I greatly underestimated the asking price for Sean Payton. Not for the Saints, but for Payton himself. Peter King reporting this morning that they are going to be starting at $20 million a year. I said somewhere between 12 and 14. They're saying 20 to start. So if you give the guy 10 years at $20 million apiece, and I'm flabbergasted. We're talking about $200 million for a coach, but and maybe it won't be for 10 years. Maybe it'll be for 6 or 7, but we're still talking about a ridiculous amount of money. When you own Walmart, you can go buy whatever coach you want. That may be what the Denver Broncos are doing. But again, you look at this roster, and there's some intriguing pieces that you could go and get. There's more than one young receiver. There's multiple players on that defense, although I think that Patrick Surtain is a little bit pie in the sky. I don't think that they would go that high. But there's multiple people on this on this defense that you would say, hey, listen, that would be a very nice addition to the draft picks. So if he's got the owner that will pay him whatever he wants, $20 million a year, $20 million a year. Peter King's pretty well plugged in. If he says $20 million a year, I don't think he's going to be far wrong. So Peyton went further. He said, I think there's a 7 in 10 chance that I'm going to be back with Fox next year. This is master negotiating. I mean, this is just great. He's got a rookie owner who's got literally bottomless pockets. Own part of Walmart. And, the family is connected to the Cronkies. Unlimited money. The Broncos may have more money than the Live Golf Tour. So whatever you want, it's right there. He gets all of that. A quarterback he thinks he can fix and a manageable roster. The draft picks that you're giving up are it's significant compensation, but it's not franchise-altering compensation. If the Houston Texans, who fired Lovie Smith about 45 seconds after the final gun yesterday, what a classless organization. But anyway, 3 coaches in 3 years, going to be 4 coaches in 4 years. I mean, what did you bring Lovie Smith in and expect him to do? But anyway, that's a franchise-altering pick that they have, the number 2 pick. That's a franchise quarterback if you get the right one and you coach him up. It's not a franchise-altering pick for the Broncos. That pick that San Francisco is sending them will be somewhere in the last probably 4 picks of the first round. You could stomach that. Saints can stomach it because he's in the AFC. Gets him out of their hair. He ain't going to Carolina. Even that dude don't have enough money. He's got enough money. He doesn't have enough draft compensation. For the Saints to agree for Sean Payton to go in the division, the Panthers would have to give them every first-round pick from now until 2055. Just not going to happen. But Payton set that up well, too. He's only said, hey, you know what? You can go in the division. It's happened before. Bill Parcells did it. He went from the Patriots to the Jets. You can do it. I mean, Peyton is negotiating out in public here, and the price just keeps going up and up and up and up. You want to talk about a guy holding all the cards. There's a reason he was smiling the whole day yesterday. Anyway, throw Arizona on the pile here, but I don't think that this works nearly as well as the Denver thing. First of all, your quarterback's going to be out for the majority of next year. So I don't think you can make a decision on Kyler Murray until 2024 if you were to take that job. Even if you wanted to, you can't move on from him because the contract's too cumbersome. And he's going to be out until, I would think, at least Thanksgiving next year. Maybe a little bit earlier, but, I mean, it's a 9-month injury. So I don't think that works. Staley's going to keep the job in Los Angeles. If McVay decides to eject here in the next week or so, put the Rams on the board. Possibility. This is the first thing that the Saints need to have happen to ignite the rebuild. They can call it whatever they want. It's going to be a rebuild. The other significant thing, of course, that they did over the weekend was they restructured Michael Thomas's contract. Now, I'm not gonna bore you with all the numbers. Let me give you what you need here. They reduced his salary by $14 million and gave him $900,000 as basically a thank you for renegotiating. There's a roster bonus that's due on March the 17th of $31 million that he's not going to get. This is going to allow them to designate him for a post-June 1st cut. And the significance of that is that you can chop it up over 2 years. It would cost you $12 million this year instead of 28, $14 million in 2024, and you're out of the Michael Thomas business. Now you say, well, why don't you trade him? Okay, it's a wonderful idea. I love the idea of getting something back for Michael Thomas, but it ain't gonna happen. Nobody's gonna take him on at this point, given what he costs and what he's done in the last 2 years. But the bigger reason is that if you trade him before June 2nd, it comes $26 million on the cap next year for the Saints, or roughly twice what they're having to do. Could you keep him? Well, yeah, you could, but it costs you $31 million next year. Anybody think that Michael Thomas is worth $31 million next year? No, he's not worth the 20. At this point, because he can't get on the field, he's not worth the $12 million that they're going to have to pay him to cut him. So that's just how that goes. But it's the first in what is going to be a series of moves. It's going to save the Saints some money. They're in bad cap shape, but they've been in worse. That makes you feel any better? Is it really bad? Yeah, it's really bad. Be worse? Yeah, it could be worse. They're going to have to eat about $11 million on Jameis Winston. Andrews Pete is about $17 million in dead money if they cut him. So you're going to have a lot of dead money on next year's cap. Probably will lead the league in dead money. What do you have that you can trade? What do you can have that you can trade that will likely not be part of the next time this team is a serious contender, which is not going to be next year, and you got to hustle if it's going to be in 2024. So what can you trade that has value now that will probably not be around when you're ready to make another run deep into the playoffs? Well, there's two names. Demario Davis is one, Alvin Kamara is the other. Both of them hold inherent trade value. You could get assets back for either one. There's some cap hits that go along with that, but Kamara at this stage of his career, 3 years from now, I don't think he's going, or 2 years from now, probably not going to be an elite back anymore. Demario Davis has been a fantastic player for the Saints. Been a terrific addition for the organization on and off the field. But at this point in his career, he's still playing high-level football, but is he going to be playing high-level football 2 years from now? Probably significantly less. There's some other easier decisions to make. It would take me about 2 seconds to decide I'm not re-signing Marcus Davenport if they want to continue to throw good money after bad. The guy finished with half a sack. Okay? I mean, come on. I'm tired of waiting. That trade officially goes down as a bust. He showed flashes, I know. He may show up somewhere next year and have 14 sacks and we can cuss and spit and, turn around 3 times, but he's just not – he wasn't worth what they paid for him at that time. He's never been able to stay on the field and be an impact player over a long period of time. So he's got to go. David Onyemata played some very good football for New Orleans, did not have a great year this year, played better in the last probably 5 games of the season than he did earlier in the year, but that contract is done. Jarvis Landry, again, at this point in his career, can't stay on the field enough to justify what you would have to pay him. He was on a 1-year prove-it deal. You can also part ways with probably Marquez Callaway, and then after that, there's a lot of other names, but those are the pertinent ones. You got to bring Caden Ellis back. Or he gets the timing award going into free agency. He was a real bright spot for New Orleans this year. Probably your defensive MVP, at least in the second half of the season for sure. And then you found Juwan Johnson and really got him going. He's a restricted free agent, so you've got to tender him an offer. They've got to decide where they want to tender him. Betting favorite right now is a second-round pick to keep him. But the biggest question of all is who's going to play quarterback. And I got a big, fat I don't know on that one. If they get a first-round pick from Denver, they get a bushel of picks enough to move up in the first round. Is there somebody at the end of the first round that they like? Getting the 49ers pick is interesting because you get that extra year at probably the biggest discount. If you're a first-round pick, you can tender the 5th year. If you're a second-round pick, it's a 4-year deal. And on the sliding scale, where the 49ers pick is going to be is the lowest dollar amount or close to the lowest dollar amount, depending on how they finish in the playoffs. So you would have a cost control quarterback for 5 years. That's interesting. Is there somebody that the Saints like that will be there at the end of the first round? Somebody like, I don't know, Hendon Hooker. Just to throw in there, and it doesn't have to be him. But somebody out of the Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, probably Anthony Richardson realm. Is there somebody that you like? The Ravens once took Lamar Jackson with the last pick of the first round. The guy became an MVP. That worked out pretty well. It's possible. Drew Brees was the first pick of the second round. There's some precedent to getting a quarterback in that range that you can build upon. Got some more thoughts on the Saints, but it's going to be, I think, the most interesting offseason since Peyton got there, since the 2005 season where, the storm had hit and, you were trying to find a coach and a quarterback and were you going to keep the franchise in New Orleans. I think that they have made the decision to bring Dennis Allen back. I'm not expecting a move here today or tomorrow, but everything else is very much in flux.